boxing is extremely dangerous and it should be banned.
Because there is something about this sport that does tap in to a certain sort of person.
Boxing should be banned in civilized countries.
Boxing is predicated on violence.
Too often, boxing is seen as nothing but a twisted idea of two men fighting each other with anger. Some even going the extreme and saying it is two men trying to kill each other in the ring. But the problem is how linear the idea really is. It fails to show the technique, the timing, the history, and the culture behind the sport. The countless hours and many times years people put into it. Having to study the art of how to hit and not get hit, the art of moving around your opponent, of toning your reflexes, of the speed and precision being put into it. Boxing is so much more than just two men with gloves fighting in a ring.
Boxing has existed almost as long as history has, with visual evidence of boxing being found in Egypt from the 3rd millennium BC. But the oldest record of sport boxing starts in ancient Greece with no weight classes, and having fighters picked by chance. The only two solid rules were no excessive holding, no poking or eye gouging. Judges would enforce these rules by using a switch or whip to beat the offender. And because there were no rounds or time limits, fighters would win by either choosing to go blow for blow if the fight lasted too long, or until the opponent gave up or was unable to fight back. These fights were usually held to honor fallen warriors. Similarly to gladiator battles, it aimed to calm the people watching by showing the great strengths of their time and showing how strong its warriors were. Fighters would often compete for the Olympic crown in boxing to show their pride in their strength and home city and to honor their bloodline. Diagorus of Rhodes stands out for having competed and winning 12 Olympic crowns, his two older sons winning an Olympic crown each and his youngest son winning 15 Olympic crowns. It was not just a brawl with no limitations, but a fight that displayed the pride for their life and bloodline. Now moving to civilized country, boxing went back to being scrutinized and illegal matches were held with popularity beginning in England and eventually spread to the United States in the 1700s. Although it would only take until 1896 for the state of New York to legalize it. They would eventually ban it over health concerns in 1914, then finally legalizing it again in 1920, with the Walker Law being passed in New York, which established the New York State Athletic Commission and legalized professional boxing, known as prize fighting. But before it could get to that point, boxing had taken a turn, using white supremacy as a way to keep the struggling sport alive. Eventually, in 1908, it would be put into check with Jack Johnson, a black heavyweight fighter seeking to end the idea of white supremacy after years of black Americans being fed to white champions for victories. Jack Johnson was determined to end the stereotype and defend his people when he called out Tommy Burns, the world heavyweight champion who was white. This fight was so important because Jack Johnson had dominated the fight, making headlines when cops stepped in to stop the beating. This point is what many believe was the start of fighters of every different culture fighting their way into boxing. In 1908, there used to be a standard for heavyweight champions where only white people were allowed to hold the championship. Being an amazing fighter in his prime and struggling to find opponents, Johnson challenged Tommy Burns. He unexpectedly took the challenge, believing he could easily defeat Johnson. Yet Johnson's win caused a shockwave to the ideas of white supremacy. Jack Johnson, holding the heavyweight championship title, went against white supremacy. So many white boxers challenged Jack Johnson for the title to return to the white race. Even some boxers coming out of retirement justified Johnson. Johnson not only beat these retirees, but defended his title for 8 more fights until he lost the heavyweight championship. Though Johnson had lost, he had stirred enough controversy to erase the doubt cast on any non-white fighter, and he became a symbol and icon for up-and-coming fighters of color, with him inspiring the likes of a small-time boxer, Muhammad Ali.
I was just about to say, that is the greatest display of, in any division, any weight, at any time. Just watch Ali versus Williams, November 1966.
When you were watching Ali get beaten up as an old man, even that was a young kid, he's not going to quit. You got to kill him. He won't quit. Even he was getting beat up every round, getting the shit kicked out of him by Larry Holmes. And it's a champ. No, come on, let me out. Come on out.
Muhammad Ali is a special man. He's done things that are unthinkable. He changed culture. Period. So.
Born in Louisville, Kentucky on January 17, 1942, Ali was introduced to boxing when he was just 12. He told a police officer named Joe Martin, "I'm gonna whoop whoever stole my bike." Joe, owning a boxing gym, decided to train a young Ali. His greatness would shine quick, winning a gold medal at the Rome Summer Olympics when he was just 18. He would go pro that same year. But after being refused service in a diner, he found that being an Olympic medalist, segregation would still follow him, so he angrily threw his Olympic medal away. He said he had no regrets, just relief and a newfound strength. After winning his pro fight, he realized he needed to market his fights to make more money. He created an overconfident persona that would predict the ends of fights and create poems detailing his upcoming fights. The older generation hated Ali for his new personality, believing he had not proved himself. Yet young African Americans viewed him as a symbol of strength and viewed him as a reason to be proud of their own race. After winning 20 consecutive fights, he challenged the then heavyweight champion Sonny Liston. Everyone expected a quick fight with Liston knocking out Ali, but Ali once again displayed his talent. He ended the fight with a TKO in the 7th round after Liston refused to come out of his corner over a shoulder injury. After the fight, he was asked if he was a member of the Black Muslims, also known as the Nation of Islam. Ali confirmed his association. He boldly said, "I don't have to be what you want me to be. I'm free to be who I want." This stirred up controversy because now the world viewed him as he had turned his back against Christianity, and his public image only soured when he exclaimed his name was Muhammad Ali, having previously gone by his birth name Cassius Clay.
Clay was a white man's name, it was a slave name. And I'm no longer Clay, I'm no longer a slave, so now I'm Muhammad Ali.
But at this point, reporters and even fellow boxers refused to call Muhammad Ali. He took this as a sign of disrespect against his religion. Ali, struggling to find support, eventually rematched Liston, winning in the first round by KO, but it wouldn't be enough to win over his critics. Having his eyes on the heavyweight belt, Floyd Patterson would aim to fight Ali, claiming a black Muslim has no place being heavyweight champion in America, and that he, as a Catholic, would bring back the black belt to America. After the controversy, people had wanted to see Ali lose, but Floyd was criticized for trying to win over white America. None of this would matter since he would lose by TKO to Ali in the 12th round. Although the height of Ali's fame would be reached when the Vietnam War peaked, with so many people hating the war, he was once again seen as a symbol of strength.
My name is a white people, not Viet Congs or Chinese or Japanese. You my opposer when I want freedom. You my opposer when I want justice. You my opposer when I want equality. You won't even stand up for me in America for my religious beliefs, and you want me to go somewhere and fight, but you won't even stand up for me here at home.
Publicly displaying his protest against the war for going against him and his religion. In April of 1967, he gets his draft notice and refused the oath of induction to fight for the country. His championship belt and his boxing license would be revoked in response. A summit meeting was held for Ali, with the army willing to have Ali put in special services and being able to box behind the scene, but Ali refused the deal and was later convicted of draft evasion. He was sentenced to 5 years of prison and banned for boxing for 3 years. His words were, "Whatever punishment I face because of my religion." Although he would not see prison since he was fighting to overturn his draft evasion charge. And with his draft evasion appeal gaining popularity, the NAACP sued the New York State Athletic Commission, claiming Ali's ban was discriminatory, which led to them lifting their ban. In March 8, 1971, Ali was set to fight Joe Frazier, being named a fight for the culture. Ali would unfortunately lose this fight, and for many this meant that Ali had fought and struggled for nothing. But Ali quickly bounced back, with his draft evasion charge being overturned 4 months later and set on fighting the current heavyweight champion, George Foreman. No one believed he would win, but on October 30, 1974, he defied all odds and won the most important fight of his career. This is when people would see that Ali had won his strongest battle yet, the long battle to defend his religion and race. And he proved that he would be a long-standing symbol of hope and talent. But even at his highest point, his influence was not yet over. Little did Ali know he had inspired the next greatest champion, and he would meet him in a juvenile detention center in 1977.
I was gonna rip his heart out. I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. There's no one can stop me. Lynx is a conqueror. No, I'm Alexander. He's no Alexander. I'm the best ever. There's never been anybody as ruthless. I'm Sonny Liston. I'm Jack Dempsey. There's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw. There's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous. My defense is impregnable. And I'm just ferocious. I want your heart. I want to eat his children. Praise be to Allah.
Saying now, Mike the Mike.
Mike Tyson was born June 30, 1966. He was only 2 when his mother's boyfriend abandoned him, and his mother, Lorna Smith Tyson, had to move and raise Mike, his brother, and his sister alone.
He spent his early life in the Brownsville section of Brooklyn, being one of the poorest neighborhoods in New York.
His mother ran a brothel out of her home, and Tyson would hear and see everything. He said he never got the attention his mother gave these men, and that he thought this was the start of all his issues.
He was bullied for being overweight and timid. He would find solace in pigeons, always wanting to find someone who loved him. He said that pigeons were the first thing he ever loved because they loved him. He cared and appreciated for his birds. His first fight started when he was 9 years old.
He took my birds, he clipped my bird's head off, and he hit me with a bird. And some other guy that used to abuse me and bully me, he said, yo man, fight him back. And I fought back. I never fought nobody before. I fought back, and you know what? I can fight real good.
After finding popularity from his skill to fight, he started hanging around criminals. Stealing became an everyday thing,
And for extra money, he started getting paid to fight other neighborhood kids, and most times even adults.
Despite all of this, Tyson had always claimed to never have been violent, only doing what he needed to do to survive his environment. By the age of 13, he had been arrested more than 30 times and was eventually sent to a juvenile detention center named Spofford. There, Muhammad Ali would visit, and seeing how excited the staff got to the point of tears, he could only think of one thing.
I said, I bet you nobody picks on him. And so later on, a couple of months I do in Spofford, so I go to another place. They ship me off to another place. And I'm in this place is a gentleman named Irish Bobby Stewart. He's an ex-professional fighter, so he started teaching me how to box. Kicking my ass, but then he started teaching me. He just wanted to let you know, listen, I'm the man. You know, I had a reputation in the institution system. So he had to check me, right? So he takes me to Customato.
The man who had helped train Ali. After about a year of training, D'Amato decided to take Mike to watch the Ali versus Larry Holmes fight, where Ali would face his 4th loss in his career to Larry Holmes. Mike said the next day, D'Amato was on the phone with Ali.
He said, I have a 14-year-old kid. He's going to be heavyweight champ of the world. His name is Mike Tyson. Please tell him to listen to me. He don't know I heard him say that. He said, the young black, he's 15 or something, he's going to be champ of the world. Tell him to listen to me. So he called me and I acted like I didn't know. Duh. So I was on the phone, and I'm on the phone, I'm crying. And he was saying, but I said, when I get big, I'm going to get him for you. I'm going to revenge you. If I said some stupid shit, I'm going to restore your honor. He didn't even listen to me. He's still talking. He didn't listen to anything I said.
By the age of 16, Tyson's mother had passed away and he was adopted by D'Amato, but sadly, D'Amato too would pass 4 years later. But D'Amato's odd training of elevating Mike Tyson's confidence to the point of him believing he was a god had already changed Tyson's life.
Finally finding his passion and being loved for it, he became a danger in the ring, eventually fighting Larry Holmes in his 5th heavyweight title.
I'm fighting him, and then Ali comes into the ring and says, get him for me.
And he knocked him out in the 4th round.
It's not a far stretch to say D'Amato had created one of the greatest champions out of nothing. Tyson had started as a lonely, scared fighter, and D'Amato transformed his fear and loneliness into strength. For the sake of not being connected to boxing, we're not going to dive into his future problems and how he overcame them. But it was necessary to showcase Mike Tyson for going from a street fighter stealing to survive to an all-time great world champion, or Diagros of Rhodes representing his home city and bloodline for an Olympic crown.
Jack Johnson representing and defending the African American race.
And Ali fighting for his religion and his people in order to encapsulate the sport of culture, the sport of pride, the sport of learning to struggle and overcome.